Minneapolis, 110-98. You've got Nuggets post-game live, Vic Lombardi, Chris Dempsey, and Chris Marlowe. We've got so much to get through tonight. Obviously, we're going to hear from Coach Adelman and the players, but my number one thought is this. Jaden McDaniels talked it, and he walked it. He is the MVP of this series. He held ground. What do the kids say? He stood on business.
He stood on business.
And he stood on business like nobody else. I mean, 33 points, 10 rebounds, and he locked down Jamal Murray better than I've seen all season, maybe in years.
Yeah, he was this, not a secret weapon. He was the weapon for them. And to end the series like he did, offensively, when this team had to have it. I mean, you asked us prior to the game, who scores for Minnesota? I didn't even mention him because I didn't think 32 points was coming out of him here tonight. But he answered the bell when it needed to be answered. And, look, he was obviously one of the primary defenders on Jamal Murray. But then when they needed him to get to Tim Hardaway, they put him on Tim Hardaway. And then when they need him to do anything else, I mean, he was the ultimate weapon in this series. And as you see right here on this graphic, Minnesota just kept coming up with another guy each game that could give them a huge game that could lead them to a victory. And tonight that was Jaden McDaniels.
And Marlowe, he doesn't get tired. Jaden McDaniels played 45 minutes tonight.
And he plays both ends.
Yes.
As hard as he can. And I thought, obviously, one of the big keys was him guarding Jamal Murray. I'm not sure Murray didn't look quite right, but a lot of that is McDaniels, 6'8", 7-foot wingspan. He just couldn't get away from him.
No.
He was like gum,
and
like glue.
And when he did, he was always worried about him behind, chasing the play.
Yeah, so what you're seeing in these clips here is, just kind of what McDaniels is about defensively. That is staying in front of a ball handler. That is, using that wingspan that both Vic and Chris has talked about in terms of contesting shots. He doesn't get screened ever, and he never gives up on a play. And then on top of that, defensively, I think the Wolves, this is a good conceptually defensive team. So when you have a player like this who you can deploy in many different ways, then plus play really good team defense behind him, makes it very difficult to score. 98 points for the Nuggets. Again, don't think they scored 100 points in any of the games in Minnesota in this series. And so, the Nuggets were the best offense in the NBA. The best.
During the regular season.
Mm-hmm. And then they ran into a defensive team.
Yeah.
And, I don't think that I would have ever seen, they put a graphic on late in that fourth quarter, one field goal in 7 minute, 42 seconds.
They finished with one field goal in the last 8.5 minutes.
That's something I thought I'd never see. For a team that has a lot of
But the fourth quarter has been doomsday in all three games in Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
All three of them. For some reason, they looked like they ran out of gas. They lost poise. They didn't look like the Nuggets we're used to seeing down the stretch.
Well, what we were talking about off camera is just the difference in the athleticism between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets. Quicker, faster, jumping, all those elements. And I'm not sure the Nuggets played their smartest game of the playoffs and made some uncharacteristic errors. But looking at it the other way, you got to give credit to Minnesota. They played really well.
And they played really hard.
Yeah.
Like when you look at these stats here, from the biggest chunk of this game, now I'm looking at the final field goal percentages. It's just about even for both teams. But for the longest part of this game, the Nuggets were shooting the ball better than Minnesota was. But they were losing the possession battle badly because of 19 offensive rebounds for the Minnesota Timberwolves, because of 13 turnovers for the Denver Nuggets. And when you lose the possession battle, you could be shooting the ball better than the opponent, and the volume alone keeps them ahead. Minnesota took 94 shots in this basketball game. The Nuggets took 75. 19-point difference in terms of shots taken for a team that wasn't shooting the ball well for the majority of this basketball game, and that really lends that says one team was hustling more than the other one was, and that was Minnesota.
Chris, they got out-rebounded 50-33.
Yeah.
50-33. You know how hard that is to do in a playoff game?
Yeah, well.
50-33 on the boards, and the second chance points, 19 for Minnesota. It goes back to what you were saying. Minnesota just played harder.
Yeah, and just every time the Nuggets make a run, you said, okay, here they come. Here come the Denver Nuggets. They're putting some buckets together. Their offense is starting to roll. And then Minnesota would come down and get another offensive rebound and another offensive rebound, or there's a turnover and another offensive rebound. It's just really frustrating when you play defense pretty good. It's 23, 24 seconds, and then the other team swoops in for rebounds. It just killed them.
You remember when the Nuggets led the game 7-2?
Yeah, back when.
They gave up that lead and never led again.
Yeah.
Well, and we were talking about this too, which is, it's weird to say that early in a game because it's so early. The entirety of the game's still ahead. But the Nuggets get out to that lead that Vic just mentioned, and they immediately get ran down. And it was 10-7 right after that.
An 11-0 run.
Yeah, and you just felt that it just felt like an uh-oh moment very early in a game. And I'm not an uh-oh kind of guy that early in a game, but you little red flags along the way, you understand why one team beat another.
All right, before we get to the highlights, let's go out to Target Center, join Scott Hastings, who called the game on the radio with Kaz tonight. Scooter, first question. That place looked like it was about to erupt tonight. How loud was it compared to some of the other arenas you've been in?
Well, listen, it was as loud as you can imagine. There's rumors they pump a little volume into it to help it, but it was loud. They were ready. They played exactly how they had to play to win the game, and even without Ant, that's a big loss, he doesn't play the way McDaniels and Naz Reid and Randall and Gobert. They're the physical guys. He's the pretty scoring machine. Well, they ended up bringing some pretty scoring machines up. Io did it in game 4. Shannon threw some numbers up tonight, and then McDaniels, you just had no answer for him. But I agree with you guys. Chris, how many times have we said a defense don't stop till you get the rebound? And last I looked, and I don't have a final box, 20 offensive rebounds. That means 20 stops. You had them. You had 20 more possessions available to you that you're not able to get. You get back to them, and that killed you. I mean, that absolutely killed you. And then, Jamal did not have a good game. 4 of 17. He struggled a little bit. And to be honest with you, they had it at 5, and they had 3 straight possessions, and they missed 3 wide open shots. At 5-6 minutes, you had them where you wanted them. 5-point game. You're right there. I think it was a 4-point game right around 4 minutes, and you missed 3 open shots, and that just absolutely killed you.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate the update. We will hear more from Scott and Katie, unless you guys have something to ask Scott. Is there anything else you guys want to add to that equation? I mean, I know Scooter's waiting to go inside the locker room and hear from Coach Adelman, but I'll go here. The Nuggets had cut it to 3, and Jamal Murray got 2 looks at it. He had a 3-pointer that went in and out, and then the layup that hit the side of the backboard. When you're talking and when you're referencing just not having enough, there's a perfect example, and that happened late in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, it did, and that layup he tried to get up over Rudy Gobert couldn't, obviously, it went very awry, and that's why you have a guy like Rudy Gobert on the court. That's why he's a multiple-time Defensive Player of the Year. And, the thing that Minnesota can put on the court that not many other teams can defensively is a guy on the perimeter like a Jaden McDaniels who can guard anybody on the perimeter. And then let's just say you do get by him and you're into the lane. Now they have shot blocker, shot alterer, Rudy Gobert, and the Nuggets were constantly worried about that. You could tell when they drove in the lane, they always knew where he was, and it resulted in a lot of pass outs and a lot of things that they don't normally do offensively.
Yeah, this is kind of a off topic here, but Terrence Shannon, I said at the start of the game, they cannot let a guy like Terrence Shannon come into the starting lineup and get 25 points.
He had 24.
A wild card. He got 24, so he kind of let their team down. But they had some young guys come off the bench and play well. And this Terrence Shannon, man,
well, it goes back
he
to
is
what
a
you were
live wire.
Chris, it goes back to what you're saying. I mean, watching the Nuggets in this series, it became painfully obvious to a guy like me, they look slow. They look slow.
And that dunk was crazy. Look, Jaden McDaniels said as much early in this series, right? We're more athletic than they are. We can just get to the rim whenever we want. And Terrence Shannon showed you again that he was right about that. And, Terrence Shannon Jr., Ayu Dosunmu, they were just constantly able to put another player on the court that could give them, we heard Scott talk about, missing Ann Edwards, and maybe some other players play differently than, more physically than Ann Edwards does, and maybe he's right about that. But what they always found was 30 points, 25 points from somebody else every single time in a way that the Nuggets couldn't. You're going to play defense, you're going to find some offense, and they were very successful.
All right, we'll do the highlights when we come back, because those of you who watched the game, you saw what we saw. The Nuggets came close, but just could not get over the hump. Waiting to hear from Coach Adelman and the Nuggets players as their season, sadly, comes to a close at the hands of Minnesota yet again.